Welcome everyone, I'm Gayle. This practice is going to be focusing on awareness. Awareness of how our body is one living unit. It's like it grew from a seed, so it wasn't like a car where we made parts and put it all together. Even though we refer to our different body parts, we really want to get a sense of how everything is integrated and everything is intertwined with each other, how our breath is so important to everything we do, how our thinking patterns affect our body, how our body affects our thinking patterns, and just notice the little things that are easy to ignore or forget until they become more integrated into our awareness so that it becomes almost like a habit of whatever it is we might be doing, of sitting up straight, of full deep breathing. So let's start by closing our eyes and focusing inward on your breath. And feel the movement of your rib cage moving out on the inhale and releasing on the exhale. You could even visualize your diaphragm, this flat dome-shaped muscle at the base of your ribs, that it contracts and moves downward, drawing air in, oxygen-rich air. And when it releases, forces the air out, and there's been an exchange in that process of now we're letting go of carbon dioxide. And then we bring in oxygen and let go of carbon dioxide. It's this cycle that goes on, and it's very powerful. But it's so easy to not be aware of our breath at all. So coming to the yoga mat is an invitation to focus inward on your breath, to notice the little things that can be the difference of whether you're able to balance or not, of whether you're able to explore places in your body that are pretty much forgotten, and how to feel a sense of wholeness. So you can keep your eyes closed or you can open them, but we're going to try and focus on different areas of our spine. So our spine has 33 vertebrae, and the top 7 are the cervical vertebrae, the middle 12 are the thoracic vertebrae, the lower 5 are the lumbar vertebrae, and then we've got 5 fused vertebrae in our sacrum and 4 little vertebrae in our tail, which is, it's like not coming out to be a full tail like most animals, but we have that part of our spine that is like a tail, so our tailbone. So let's just see if we can focus on the lumbar vertebrae first. So just tilting your pelvis back and forth, anteriorly tilting it forward and posteriorly tilting it backward. I notice that's pretty easy to do, but we're also grounded, so we don't have as much movement as when our hips are up in the air. So now let's see if we can do the thoracic area. This is a little bit harder to do because it's not really meant to move that much in flexion and extension. It's meant for a lot of rotation, but not as much in flexion and extension. So just see what you can do. And now we'll move the cervical vertebrae. And this is really the easiest one to move. I think this has the most range of motion. But our cervical and lumbar vertebrae are said to mirror each other. Good, now come back to center and let's do some full cat-cow seated. So trying to move all 3 of those sections of our spine together. And feel how you're rocking on your sit bones. Feel how when your chest goes forward, the shoulders go back. When the shoulders come forward, the chest goes back. And you could let the cervical spine be part of this movement. Or you could try and keep your head more or less still as the rest of your spine moves. So just little differences, but they give you more opportunity to explore your magnificent body. So now let's come onto our backs. And we're going to do something very similar to what we just did, exploring different sections of our vertebrae. So first, just let your back settle on the floor. Let the back of your shoulders rest on the floor. And feel how there's no space underneath your low back. Or if there is, do a little bit of a posterior tilt, so stretching your tailbone towards your heels to lengthen out your back and flatten it. Because even though it's healthy to have somewhat of a lumbar curve, when our knees are up in the air, that can flatten our back, and we don't want to have excessive curve. So now just see, and you have the floor for reference, just tilt your pelvis back and forth, little tilts back and forth. You can even place your fingers on the front of your hip joints, so you can feel that movement. So when the hips move, the front of the hips move towards your shoulders, that's a posterior tilt. When they move away from the shoulders towards the feet, that's an anterior tilt. Okay, now just settle down into a flat back again, and see if you can just lift and lower the rib cage. So I'll bring my arms out of the way. So this is pretty subtle. So our thoracic spine doesn't want to move in flexion and extension all that much. It's got all these ribs attached, and that kind of limits that range of motion. But just see what you can do without getting into full, using the pelvis a lot. So just, not to say that you won't have to use it a little bit, but this is just, we're kind of building awareness. And now with the head on the floor, I'm going to bring my hands underneath my head because I don't want my hair being pulled out on the sticky mat. So you can see how it's pretty easy to move the cervical spine. And now what the thoracic spine is really good at is twisting. So bring your knees up and twist over to the right, trying to keep that left shoulder down. Feel that nice twist, that range of motion in there, in this whole area where the rib cage is. And then pull your left hip back down to float your legs all the way across and over to the other side. Just enjoy this twist here. And you might want to make some little movements to make yourself more comfortable or to find a little bit more of a twist. Now come back up to center. Hold the back of your legs, and we're going to give our whole back a little massage while trying to keep the spine nice and rounded and get a little movement going. And now let's rock up to tabletop. Come onto our hands and knees. We're going to explore the hands and the feet and continue exploring our spine. Really our whole body, right? Because it's all connected. So rotate your fingers towards your knees if you can. So I'm rotating outward, not inward, but outward, so I get an external rotation in the shoulders. And if your fingers won't rotate this far, that's something to be aware of, that maybe you could work on a little more range of motion in your wrists. So if your fingers only go to the side, that's fine. You just want to rock in the direction of your fingers, whether they're out to the side or facing your knees. Notice how the weight shifts in your hands. And notice how you can get a nice stretch on the underside of your wrists. Well, let's tuck our toes so that when we reach back, we're not only stretching the wrists, but we're stretching the soles of our feet as well. Just rock back and forth. Notice how this external rotation feels. And now we're going to rotate our hands inward so the shoulders inwardly rotate. And I don't know if anyone could actually point their fingers directly towards their knees, but just see how different this feels. Good. And now face your fingers forward and shift your weight forward. Notice how that feels. And shift your weight back. So if we don't think about it, most people aren't aware that they're just dropping their weight straight into the heels of their hands, which over time can cause problems. Instead, we want to grip the mat. Engage your arms. Feel that muscular action draw all the way up into your shoulders. And start to circle around your hands, feeling the weight shift in your hands. Reverse the direction of your circles. And walk your hands back with your toes still tucked and sit back towards your heels so you feel a big stretch on the sole of your feet. You could even reach back and massage your feet a little bit, feeling that big tendon that goes from your big toe out towards your heel. And now lean forward and just tap out the top of your feet. Sit back on your heels. And first we're going to start with our hands behind us and draw the belly in. See if you can lift the knees off the floor and feel the stretch on the top of your feet. Maybe you can find a little balance by pulling your knees up and sitting up nice and tall. Now lower your knees down, bring your hands forward. So instead of back here, they're forward. Lean forward into your hands and see if you can draw your knees up. Notice how that feels a little bit different. So similar action, different placement of the hands, but maybe feels a little bit different. We're still stretching out the top of the feet. And if your knees just barely come off the floor, but you feel a stretch, then that's fine. So now let's come back into our tabletop. And just sway your ribs from side to side. Notice the sensation in your feet from from stretching out the sole of the foot and the top of the foot. Notice if your hands feel more like active and engaged, and notice if that feeling transfers to your whole body. Now it's to lift from the tailbone, lift the tailbone up, let the ribs lower down, stretch the chest forward, pull the shoulders back, and lift up through the crown of your head. From here, start to curl the tailbone under, feeling it round in one vertebra at a time. Or you can focus on that, rounding through your spine. And just keep switching directions. Moving the spine so it feels like this live entity, like a snake or like a wave. Like a caterpillar. Take your choice, however you want to think about it. And then you can just kind of play with the pace that you're moving. Just focusing on the feeling and noticing how your spine is starting to open up a little bit more. And come back to a neutral position. We're going to twist. So think of, actually, let's take your right hand over to your left ribs, kind of grab a hold of them and pull them across so that you're twisting from your ribs, not from your hand. Bring your right hand down, take your left hand over to the right ribs, grab the ribs, pull them across, open up through your shoulder and float your hand up. Nice. Lower down, tuck your toes, and stretch your hips back and your heels back into downward facing dog. So in the beginning, don't straighten your legs. Think of straightening your back. And then do those little pelvic tilts that we were doing earlier. Notice how that feels in your down dog and how it feels down your legs, the back of your legs and your hamstrings. Now think of keeping the knees reaching forward a little bit, but pressing the top of your thighs back and reaching your heels toward the floor. Still with that little bend in the knees. And then the more you reach back, the more you ground through your heels, the straighter your legs will get. But not from popping the knees back, but from just moving into this slowly. And you may not be straightening your knees, okay? On your back to round at this point. And think of a long straight back. And then again, even here, see if you can do those little pelvic tilts. Now walk your hands back to your feet, come up onto your fingertips, lift your heels up, and then lower your heels down and lift the front of your foot up.
Spread the toes as you lower down. Lift the heels up as high as you can. And lower it down. Lift the front of the feet up. So we're shifting the weight from the front of the foot to the back of the foot. Noticing how that feels. And now, start with your feet down and grounded, toes spread, and start to walk your hands forward. So we're coming back into down dog, but notice it might feel a little different whether we walk back or we walk our hands forward. Grip your hands and press them down and forward into the mat, into the floor, into the earth. So the hips shoot back. Notice when you press into something that won't move, it sends energy in the opposite direction. Come up onto your tiptoes and walk your feet forward. Lower the heels down and lift the front of the foot up. Spread the toes, lower down, and press strongly into the earth. Hug your ankles in towards each other and lift up through the inner arches. And with your breath, rise all the way up. Reach your arm up, reach your gaze up, interlace your fingers and reach up. Let your ribs pop forward and notice what that feels like. And then pull the ribs in and notice what that feels like. Notice how the stretch where you feel it shifts. But a lot of times we're not really aware of it. Like we just kind of pop up like this, but think of pulling these low ribs kind of inward and downward. And notice how that brings a stretch more up into your shoulders, or notice what it feels like for you. And now lift your heels up, coming up onto your tiptoes. And see how slowly you can lower your heels down as you release your arms and lower all the way down. And lean back into your heels. Can you pick the front of your foot up? Oh, almost fell out of balance there. So you have to figure out how to shift your body to balance off the fact that you're just balancing on your heels. So there might be different ways to do this. Like, am I going to bend at my waist and lean forward? Am I going to try and stay as upright as possible and just pull up with the shin muscles? We're just kind of learning about our bodies and just shifting your weight back into the front of the foot and to the back of the foot. Now walk to the front of your mat, and we're going to walk backwards on our toes and walk forward on our heels. So reach your arms up, lift your heels up, and see if you can step back in control. So a lot of times what happens is we're kind of falling back, and so we speed up the walk. But see if you can walk with control. And the more you reach up through your fingers, it might make it a little bit easier to walk, also keeping those ribs in, so not popping them out, popping them forward, I meant to say. And go all the way to the back of your mat. Lower your feet down. So now see if you can lift the front of your foot up. This one's a little harder, and walk forward on your heels. With practice, it gets easier, as does just about everything. And now we're going to lift up again, and can you walk backwards on your heels? Maybe not so smoothly. This gives something to work on. I guess I could take one more step back. Good. And now come up onto your toes and walk forward again in control. Nice. Lower your heels down. On your next inhale, sweep your arms up, lift your heels up. On your exhale, lower down, forward fold. Place your hands down, step back into plank. And just like when we were standing, keep the ribs lifted, stretch your chest forward and your heels back. Grip the mat with your hands. So maybe the heels of your hand gets a little bit lighter. You could even shift from side to side and just lift the heels of your hands up. You can lower your knees to the floor or keep them lifted. Lower all the way down slowly. Point your toes, press the top of your feet into the floor, curl up into your Cobra. Then instead of just plopping straight down, Think of grabbing the ground with your toes and stretching your chest forward. So you pull your hands back isometrically and lengthen your spine as you lower. And puff up into your back and start to curl up into your Cobra. And stretch forward as you lower down. Bring your hands back a little bit more. Press into your feet, curl up. And if you want to try up dog, just press down a little bit more into the top of your feet. Squeeze your legs towards each other. Lift up through the chest, but keep your shoulders back. So we're not doing up dog like this. Think of opening up across the chest. And then lower down. Notice how it's similar to Cobra, but a little bit different. But you can still use your legs a lot in Cobra. So let's try Cobra again, pressing into your feet, curling up. And lower back down. And this time we'll come up into up dog. Same action, but just a little bit more lift through your thighs. But same action in the upper body. Good, lower back down again. Bring your hands forward. So shift your body so that your shoulders can be right over your elbows. Bend your left knee. And you can even pick your left foot up and stretch your knee away from your hip. Gently pull your heel towards your hip. And then reach back. Find your foot and bring your heel gently in towards your hip. So if you keep your elbow up, if your heel is pretty close to your hip, and if you keep your elbow up, you can spin your hands so that your fingers face the same direction as your toes. Then you can just rock a little bit from side to side. And release your foot, switch sides. Reach back. Maybe spin your fingers toward your toes. Maybe do a little rocking motion from side to side. And notice how the front of your thighs feel, your quads. Those 4 big muscles there. And release your foot. Lower your chest toward the floor. And bend both feet. Reach back with both hands for both feet. Get a nice firm grip on your feet and open your shoulders up. Start to engage your glutes and then push back through your feet so your chest lifts up off the floor. Notice how your whole body turns on to be able to do this. And now maybe just one more little lift off. See if you can lift your legs off the floor. So I'm having to push back through my feet, stretch forward through the chest for bow pose. Good, lower down, bring your hands by your sides and come on up into up dog or Cobra. Lower the knees, glide back into child's pose. And notice already how you're feeling. How maybe your body feels more alive. We've gotten into some places that maybe you don't normally move into. And your next inhale, round forward, bringing your shoulders past your wrists, tuck your toes, glide back to your child's pose. And inhale, round forward, and exhale, glide back. Just see if you can find a nice steady rhythm here. Lift your hips up and back to downward facing dog. And walk your feet in close enough so that your heels can be on the floor. So that might be like this for you, and it might be further away. And it might have changed from the first time we did down dog. So pressing your heels down, take your right hand and reach it across to your left ankle, or it could be higher up your leg. We're going to twist towards the left. And then come on out. Same thing, other side. Reach the left hand towards the right ankle or calf. Adding a nice twist. Come back into your down dog. On your next inhale, sweep your right leg up. And on your exhale, bend your knee, pull your knee into your chest, round your spine, shift your weight forward. Keep your knee high and your spine rounded as you step your foot forward. Keep the back heel lifted, press the front knee forward and push down into the earth with your feet. Lift up toward the sky with your chest, coming into a nice crescent lunge. And even here, notice how the ribs want to just flare out. So let them flare, but at the same time, pull them in a little bit. Keep pressing back through your back leg, lifting forward through your heart and reaching through your fingertips. Keep this in length and start to twist to your right, spreading your arms out like eagle wings, and then reach up and back. Come back towards your twist, sweep the back arm forward and up, open up, warrior two. Reach back, reverse your warrior, keeping your arms grounded, come back forward again, straighten your front leg, press into both feet. Notice if you press down and hug in, you get a little taller. Keep that length and reach forward past your toes. Keep this top shoulder nice and open and come on into triangle pose. Remember to engage your glutes. We want to scoop that right hip underneath. Notice how that opens your shoulders up a little bit more. And now to come into side angle, we just bend the front knee and reach the top arm forward. Inhale back up all the way to reverse warrior. Come back through warrior two and windmill the arms. Step back into down dog. Just take a moment to explore your down dog. You could circle your hips. You could circle your ribs. You could floss your shoulders. And inhale, reach your left leg up. Reach it high and then pull it in really tight. Keep rounding through your back, pressing down through your hands. Straighten your leg forward. Rise up, crescent lunge. So if you're not so engaged, if everything is kind of loose, it's going to be harder to balance. So press into your feet, draw the lower ribs in. As you lift up, open up through your chest. Reach back through your fingers and then keep that length as you twist to your left. Keep stretching out between your fingers. Reach back. Come back into your twist. Sweep the back arm forward and up and open up, warrior two. Reach back, reverse your warrior. So a lot of times when we reach back, we tend to take the knee back with us. So think of reaching your knee forward as you reach back. And come back through warrior two. Straighten your front leg. So think of pulling your hip back as you push your foot down and forward. The hip will go back. Try and keep this hip tucked underneath you so the shoulder stays open. You're welcome to use a block or you can use your leg. But if you're placing your hand on your leg, try not to lean into it. Use the power of your legs to hold you up in triangle pose. And now bend your front knee forward, reach the top arm forward, coming into side angle. And all the way back into reverse warrior. And windmill the arms. Step back to your down dog. And notice if you feel like a transformation that's happened or is happening. And bring your knees forward, come onto your knees. We're going to play with a little back bend here. So camel pose, Eustrassena. Think of pulling your belly in. So start with your toes tucked and imagine a line from your knees through your hips to your shoulders. So we're not breaking that line, but we're trying to keep that line. Hug your legs in towards each other, engage your glutes, and start to lean back. And find your heels, and then press your chest forward. Puff up through your heart. And then keep leading with the chest as you come back into your kneeling pose. You can do that again with your heels lifted. And be very careful, so don't go past like your limit. Even if you see me doing it or see someone else doing it, listen to your body. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, if you feel like you're ready for that, you can untuck your toes, just like we did in Cobra. Press the top of your toes into the floor. Keep a nice long spine and start to lean back. Find your heels and then press forward, opening up through the shoulders. Heart lifting, chest opening, and then just come forward to come back to your neutral position. Maybe roll out the shoulders. So if you're ready for a deeper back bend, you could start walking your hands towards the back of your knees. And if it's, this takes a lot of strength in your quads, and I'm not even that strong. Like some people can lie down slowly all the way onto their backs. But just, make sure that you're safe. Have some blocks handy, or, you could just bring one hand at a time to your foot. So, our awareness extends to like what our edge is, where our center is, how we feel as we go through transitions from poses, how we feel once we're in the pose, and how we're going to work within that, how our breath can really help us. I notice for myself, the harder something is, like the harder a pose is, the more I focus on my breath, the easier it gets. The more I can kind of understand what's going on and make those little adjustments. So last time for our camel pose, Eustrassena. So keep your legs active and start to lean back. Find your heels, puff your chest forward, and maybe you might be ready to walk your hands forward. So notice your back, protect your back by thinking of doing a little bit of a posterior tilt. Pull the ribs in a little bit and rise all the way up. Nice, bring your hands down, tuck your toes, and stretch back to downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward. Lift and spread all your toes. Lower the toes down, rise all the way up. Interlace your fingers, reach your palms up. And release and float down. So all these poses that we do, and really all of life, there's a little bit of a, different opposing energies that can either fight each other or they can work together. And so we're trying to bring awareness to having them work together. Well, let's start with tree pose. So starting from the ground up, lift and spread your toes. Press down into the floor and think of lengthening through your waist, through your whole spine. As you shift your weight into your right foot, try not to sink into it, but lift out of it. Your heel can either be just above your ankle, like below your knee, or above your knee. And you can use your hand to place your foot on your thigh, if you like, and then think of drawing this standing leg, that hip in, and reach up. Notice the more you reach up, the balance gets a little easier. But see if you can feel that for yourself. Notice how the ribs want to pop out. See if you can draw them in and keep pressing into your big toe mound as you reach up through your fingertips. Good, and slowly release. Maybe just circle the hips. So bringing a little counter movement into this linear stretching in tree pose to just like really loose, just have fun, play around here. And then we'll step into the left leg. Spread your toes. Think of finding that inner lift. And notice the tripod of your foot, the mount of the big toe, the mount of the pinky toe, the center of the heel. You want those all evenly weighted. And then as you bring your knee up, think of lifting up. So you're not just pulling your knee up, you're lifting up through your whole body. Place your foot wherever it feels right for you. And then reach up. And keep reaching up. And reach up maybe a little bit more. Notice if that actually helps your balance. It really does for me, actually. And release your hands. And lower down. So now we're going to go from tree pose into dancer pose. And dancer pose is really about our legs moving back, our chest moving forward. So I'll just demo that for you. And you might even try coming into tree pose without using your hand. So pull your left knee up. I'm going to place it to the inner thigh. Reach the arms up. Get nice and tall and extended. Keep that extension as you reach for your left foot. And start to kick back as you reach forward, just like bow pose that we did on the ground. And then you play with like how high can you reach up? How much can you kick back and reach forward at the same time? And slowly with control, come on back to stand. Okay, so that was the demo, and you could hopefully see how I was stretching forward with my upper body, reaching back with the lower body, and how that creates a sense of balance. But it's that awareness of how much forward am I reaching, how far back am I reaching. So let's play with that together. So starting in Tadasana, mountain pose, notice your feet. And notice the relationship of your ankle to your knees to your hips to your shoulders, and your head to your shoulders. So we don't want to be like, have this zigzag line. We want to have a nice, strong line. Not to say there aren't curves, but it's more like we're balancing, finding that balance. Shift your weight into your right foot. Pull your left knee up. Reach your arms up. Notice if you reach your arms a little bit taller, if your leg can come up a little bit more. Then externally rotate at your hip, place your foot on your inner thigh. Keep reaching up. And try and keep the ribs pulling in a little bit. Now from here, you're going to take your left hand to your left ankle or foot. Bring your knee down, and then as you kick back, you want to puff the chest forward like a cobra. And see if you can find that balance of stretching your foot back, your chest and your arm forward. And if you fall, that's okay. That's part of learning. Like, where is your edge? How do you know until you fall? And then see if you, see, like I just started to fall just talking about that. And then come back forward again. Reach up, pull your knee up nice and high. Maybe straighten your leg. And slowly lower down. So one thing I did forget to mention, when we're doing these one-legged balance poses, you might want to make sure that you have space around you in case you fall. Or you could have like a chair by you if you wanted to use that for a little more, help with your balance. So let's try dancer pose on the left side. Let's spread your toes, evenly weight through the tripod of your foot, and begin to pull energy. Like even though we're pressing down into the earth, we're also pulling energy up. Bring your knee up as you reach your arms up. Maybe reach a little bit taller through your arms, and then externally rotate your right hip, bringing your right foot to the left inner thigh. Keep reaching up nice and strong. Remember to breathe and bring your right hand to your right foot or ankle, and start to kick back with your foot as you reach forward with your chest. Keep using that tension to create the balance. Maybe play with lifting your knee up a little bit higher, reaching forward. And then start to come out nice and slow and control. Pull your knee up. And straighten your leg. Slowly lower down and release. All right, so because practice helps us to gain proficiency, let's play with that one more time, moving a little bit faster. So as you inhale, pull your left knee up, Reach up through your fingertips, externally rotate at your hips. Place your left foot on your right inner thigh. Reach up for one more breath. And then take your left hand, slide it down your leg to your left foot. And as you tip your body forward, kick your foot back as you reach your chest forward. Maybe play with lifting that knee a little bit higher as you reach forward. And then slowly come out. So you have to release the tension slowly, not all at once, so you can hold your balance. Reach your arms up, pull your knee up, straighten your leg, and slowly lower down. Maybe just circle the hips, and we'll try balancing on the left side. So engage your glutes, spread the toes, press into the tripod of your foot. As you reach your arms up, reach your knee up. Reach up even taller, externally rotate at the hip, place your right foot on your left inner thigh. Keep this height and bring your right hand down towards your foot or ankle. And start to tip your body forward as you kick back with your leg. Reach forward with your heart, lift up through your knee. Find your edge, keep lifting, reaching, and then with control, kind of releasing the tension slowly. Come on back, pull your knee up, straighten your leg, and slowly lower down and release. All right, give yourself a little pat on the back for a job well done. Bend your knees, come into a squat. Lower your hips to the floor and lie on your back. Open your arms out to the side, bring your knees up, and we'll twist again like we did in the beginning. Just twist your right knees, or your knees over to the right. Notice how the twist feels now. Notice if it feels a little easier, a little more open than it did in the beginning as we've moved throughout this practice. Now pull the left hip down to come back up and twist all the way across to the left. Trying to keep that right shoulder down. Just a few more breaths here. And pull your hips back to the ground. Bring your knees by your sides, coming into happy baby. Just gently rock from side to side. Being aware of how this feels on your back, if it feels like a nice gentle massage. And release your feet, bring them as wide as the mat. Reach your arms up over your head. And just gently start to windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Nice, come back to center, give yourself a big hug. And stretch out for Savasana. Noticing how it feels after all that movement, all that self-exploration. And notice if you are aware of more places in your body. Notice if you're more aware of how everything is connected. How when you move your toe, it affects something up into the opposite shoulder. And so sometimes where we feel pain isn't the source of the pain. But by exploring our whole body and listening and being aware, we can make changes. You know, our brain directs our body. So if we think there's no hope, then there isn't. If we think we can't do something, then we can't. If we think we can, doesn't mean we always can do exactly what we want, but we're definitely going to learn along the way. The thing you don't want to do is push too hard, too fast. But see if you can find that happy medium, which
comes from experience and making mistakes. So just enjoy this rest. Savasana is a complete letting go. Feel that deep sense of surrender, that deep connection with the earth, and feeling the wholeness of your body. It's not just a bunch of parts put together. It's something that began as a seed and grew into what it is now. And we're always shaping our body by our habits and our actions. With awareness, we can gain a greater capacity to listen and to make those little changes that our body is gently asking us, or not so gently asking us to do. We'll just stay a few more breaths in Savasana. And you can bend your knees, shift your hips off to the side, and come onto your side. And just take a moment to rest here. Tapping into that awareness. And really, if you have awareness, you're always going to learn something new when you come to the mat. Or you're always going to learn something new during your day. And now staying relaxed. Use your hands and gently press your way up to a comfortable seat. Close your eyes. Feel your breath. Feel the miracle of your whole body. Take a moment to give thanks. Give gratitude. And please join your hands together in front of your heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you're feeling great and that you learned something and that you have a greater awareness and you appreciate your breath and this whole continuous, connected being that we are. We're connected within ourselves, and we're connected to the whole universe. I think the more we feel the connection in our whole body to itself, the more we can feel connected to a bigger whole. So please hit the like button, the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already, tell your friends, and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Bye for now.